8 this evening, so we can just go do 5 minutes.
Oh, sure. Hey, that's fine with me. I'm here.
You ready?
Give me just a second. You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. I wish I'd changed my toner for my timer. I don't know if I can do it now or not.
I gave you all your agendas. For
Yes, you
Tuesday.
did. Thank you. Todd, if the weather's bad, can we call if we have a quorum so we won't have to delay the meeting?
If the weather's bad, we'll move it.
But when do we have to have?
By the end of the week, I'm going to make sure with the state.
Okay.
Okay, you want
I'll just check. Thank you.
Yeah, turn on the mic if you'd like.
Hey, Mark, your mom still got that green Corvette? Your mom still got that Corvette?
Dennis.
Is it
Dennis.
still you got the last
Dennis.
Okay, folks, it's 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and start this meeting of the Wayne County Board of Education. Of course, as you know, our purpose for being here this evening is for a public hearing for the possible closure or consolidation of Genoa Elementary. In the case of a consolidation, it would be with Dunlow Elementary. So this is a special meeting of the Board of Education. So President Hall will open the meeting and we will do the pledge.
All right, we're going to go ahead and open our special meeting of the Wayne County Board of Education. It's 6:01, and if you'll stand, we'll say the pledge. Oh, lead us again. Okay, Dennis?
You know, it's those seats are too low.
They are low. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Let the record show that all board members are present in person this evening. And I want to start by just saying thank you all for taking the time to come here this evening and share. Sorry. I just want to say I want to thank you for coming this evening and taking the time to give us your thoughts and your opinions and your concerns. We are listening, and that's what today's meeting is about. That's the intent. We're here to listen. Your board members will not be able to engage in any discussion or debate or answer any questions ourselves. Our superintendent or the directors that he has here with him this evening, they'll be answering any questions that you may have. So we'll clarify anything that you need. This meeting is being held in accordance with West Virginia Code 18-5-13A, and those set the proceedings for this type of meeting. So we're going to turn it over to our superintendent now for a brief overview of the proposal.
Yeah, back in December, I came down and met with the staff at the school, and we also held a community meeting that was hosted by the school to address the topic of closure and consolidation.
No, I still want to be quiet.
The reason that we're considering closure or consolidation is because of the loss of enrollment, not only here in Dunlow, but in the district as a whole. In the last 10 years, the district has lost approximately 1,600 students. To put that in perspective for you, 1,600 students is currently the enrollment of our 9 smallest schools. And so we operate 18 schools overall, and in the last 10 years, we've lost the equivalent of the enrollment of 9 of those schools. The school funding formula, which supplies money to the school system to operate on, is based on student enrollment. So as those numbers have continued to decrease, it has put the school system in a financial bind. And so what has happened over the years, and you're familiar with schools that have closed down in the rural parts of the county, what has happened over the years is that the school systems have to adjust. And you not only see this conversation going on here in Wayne County, you see it going on across the state. Because it's a problem for about 51 out of the 55 counties in the state of West Virginia. Genoa and Dunlow are our two smallest schools. Dunlow currently operates with less than 50 students. Genoa operates with between 50 and 60 students currently. Some of the students that are here are on transfer from other school districts, and they've chosen to come here. The enrollment trends for the entire district, including the schools that the students would be transferred to, and that's East Lynn, Wayne Elementary, and Crum Pre-K through 8, those schools have also lost population. So when the state looks at the financial health of the district and they issue reports to us, they look at two things. They look at what's called building utilization and economies of scale. And what that boils down to is how many students are serving in the building and how many kids does it take to keep a school open to reasonably serve students in a building. So the state expects that our building utilization, they take the number of classrooms that's in a building, they multiply by the number of students that's allowed to be in a classroom at that grade level. They come up with a total number that a school can hold at any one period of the day. They divide that by the actual enrollment. The state wants our utilization number to be at 85%. When you look at Genoa's current utilization rate is at 38%. Dunlow's is at 23%. Wayne Elementary, the largest school in the schools that we're talking about, is 76%. Crum Pre-K through 8, a brand new multi-million-dollar building, is at 28%. Fort Gay is at 40%. East Lynn Elementary is at 36%. Know that there was a statewide article last week that said that Wayne County's average for the entire district is at 44%, well below the utilization rate. They also talk about economies of scale, and that's really what's driving this decision to the forefront is the economies of scale. So we are funded on ratios. So the state looks at the number of students we have. Everything comes down to the number of students we have. They take the number of students and they provide us with teachers and service personnel, and they have ratios to provide them. So for example, and I could cite different examples for different job classifications. This is an easy one to understand. Our cooks, by state policy, they are to serve 140 meals per student. So when we are being funded for positions, for cook positions, that's what's expected that we have. A cook for approximately 140 students. That's everything. So when you get into schools that fall below 100, what happens is you lose those economies of scale. So we have a cook at Dunlow for less than 50 students. We have a cook here at Genoa for between 50 and 60 students. We have a halftime cook that works at both places for safety reasons, with these people coming in at 5:30 in the morning. So we have 3 cooks working to serve 100 kids when our ratio is supposed to be 1 to 140 meals. I can give you a ton of examples. 3rd grade classes. We're required to have you have your 3rd grade teachers, and then you have your ECATs, and we're funded as if the class is full. So if there's 23 kids in the class, we get funding from 1 teacher. But if we have multiple schools that have 10 kids in each 3rd grade class, then those extra positions, we have to pay for that out of local monies. So what that drives up is the amount that we're paying for out of local funds. And what has happened over the years is, even though we have cut positions every single year, we have less positions now than we did 6 or 7 years ago, even though we have cut those positions. The amount that we have to spend out of pocket had increased to over $9 million out of local funds. So we had worked and made cuts last year and dropped that number to about $8.5 million. And then we open up this school year, we see another enrollment drop. The birth rates and for Wayne County and for most of the state of West Virginia indicate that enrollment is going to keep dropping across the state. With those enrollment drops, we lost approximately 215 kids this year. Our projected numbers, right back up to over 9 million out of local funds with less positions. So we are paying pretty much twice as much for the extra positions that we were paying for a decade ago. And so what's happening is the money is running out. When you look at what is spent through federal sources, state sources, all funding sources, we spend approximately $15,000 a student in Wayne County. Those economies of scale, when you get to the small schools, that number goes up. And the reason it goes up is because your teachers are with less kids. Your cooks are serving less students. Your custodians are serving less students. Your principals are serving less students. So when we look at the numbers, Genoa Elementary, the district is at an average of $15,000 per student. Genoa Elementary is over $20,000 per student. It is the most cost-based building that we operate, based on economies of scale. Now, that's through no fault of anybody here, and it's through no fault. It's just because the numbers have shrunk to the point. And that was the last available data. I'm sure when the state updates that, it's going to show that Dunlow is at the highest end of the scale because their enrollment is falling below Genoa's. So those are the impacts that are hitting the county school system. And so we have had, in the last 5 years, we've had a fund balance as high as $9.5 million. Now, the state recommends that we keep a fund balance of at least $5 million. Those are emergency funds. It's to pay our staff. It is to deal with any type of emergencies. It's for facility upgrades that have to be planned for, etc. So we've been as high as $9.5 million in the last 5 years. But as we've continued to lose enrollment year after year, we are eating into that reserve. At the end of last year, we were at 1.9 million, which is below the threshold that the state says that we have to have for emergency use and to make sure that employees are paid. And so we have to get that number under control. We cannot continue to operate in the deficit if the money's gone. And so that's what we're working on is we need to get that 1.9 million that we have in reserves. We need to get that back up above 5 million for the district to be stable and to do what it needs to do to provide the services and the facilities for every student in the district, including the students here. So that's why we're having this conversation this evening. And I know we have a series of people signed up, and we will turn it over to them.
All right, we'll go ahead and start with our public comment. First on the list is Ms. Claudette Cox.
Macy, are you going to tell me to have 5
Oh,
minutes?
and just so everyone is aware, you have up to 5 minutes to speak, and if you'll just state your name and your connection to the school and let us know those information before you get started, that would be great.
Yeah, it's on. It is. It doesn't amplify. It sets up to feed into the live stream.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
My name is Colette Fox, and I have been a public educator in Wayne County for the past 30 years. I'm here to speak to the people of this small community about facts and fiction. First, let me say, my family is from this community. But this is the heart of the county and some of the best people that some things that just don't add up. First, if any board member or member of our legislature that we voted in or persons wanting to be a part of our county, instead of making statements to people about misappropriation of funds, which if that were true, we would have already been taken over by the state, and that monies can just be moved, I believe I saw on Facebook, $149,000 from technology, or moving it as it's delegated for specific uses. This is what the law says. Any elected official knows that we voted in, that the only way it can be moved is if they vote to do that and create a law up there in Charleston. We cannot do that as a local county. They can. That's who we vote in. So smart people of Genoa, where did the money go from Genoa? Our elected officials voted against anything that would benefit public schools. How? Social media posts are made that the state, if we would use the retiree employees of 60 plus, that would be monies that we can use to save our schools. Because each teacher makes $60,000 a year from what they say. Well, I taught for 30 years and I have a master's plus whatever, and I'll never make $60,000 a year.
True.
And what percentage of that is a cook, a bus driver, a custodian who lives on call? That's not our county. We don't have that. However, when our current House members voted to invest in the Hope Scholarship, that cost over our county, we've lost students, whether it's to homeschooling, to private school, to whatever. And you have the right to make a choice. That doesn't matter to me. But we can't sit here and say that it does not affect the public schools, because it does. If you want to be a part of Wayne County school system, then don't homeschool your kids and receive $7,500 a child. That took money from Genoa and Dunlow. What isn't being told to you is that our board has multiple meetings with a proposal to help our vulnerable counties receive help in order to help our schools stay afloat. They've been there year after year with something proposed to help you all stay open. So what happened? Our elected officials, they voted against us. Pull the record. It's vote. They say school choice is what's more important. I have no problem with school choice, but they say it's fair and equitable. Well, not for every student. That leaves public school. Our county gets no funding for this student. That's what happened to Genoa and Dunlow. That's the monies that would help save our schools. This is the kicker. I teach special education for 30 years. And what percentage of those most vulnerable schools are given equitable access under the law to attend a private school? Kids with significant differences are discriminated against. Private schools don't have to provide specifically trained staff for instruction. A small percentage, 2% of private schools in the state of West Virginia serve special needs students, and they are only special ed allowed to attend that. That's discrimination. The federal law says that I have to provide under IDEA, I have to service those students. But private schools don't.
Right.
So those students, when we have one of the highest populations of kids that have difficulties, the only way you get services is if they come to public school. Instead of people making statements, why didn't any of them have the budget, or they don't have the plans, or why did they come with a written plan? My dad was a self-employed barber, and he told me, don't ever come to me with a problem if you don't have a solution. So we have lots of people making statements on social media, and we have lots of people that think that people in these small communities are stupid, but we know what we vote for, and we know what we need to do. This is not their fault. If we have people who say otherwise, where is their documents and their plan to help save Genoa and Dunlow? I haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of talking, but I haven't seen anything in writing.
Claudette,
Time.
you're at your time limit.
So let me just say it's not their fault.
Thank you. Miss Valerie Robinson.
It's on. It just feeds into the live stream. You just need to be loud so everybody can hear you.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Valerie Robinson. I've taught at this school for about 11 years, but I have lived in this area since I was born. I actually came to school here in the 90s. And I've thought long and hard about what I want to say. And I guess over the years, the community and the staff and the teachers, we've all said everything that there is to say. So I'm not going to repeat it now. You all know what the issues are. I know that our county is in bad financial shape, but that is not the fault of Dunlow and Genoa Elementary, which you said earlier. But we are receiving the consequences. These communities have already been devastated by years of abandonment. First, the coal mines left, then the other jobs that were related to that left. So people left to get jobs, and then more jobs left. And we're the ones that stayed. And we stayed because we want a future for our community and these children. We want our kids to have a sense of community and a sense of home, and that's what they have in these schools. This school is literally all Genoa has left. I went into teaching with the goal of bringing up the school that gave me such a good start in life. There's always been something special about this school, and I know that Dunlow feels the same way about their school. These schools feel comfortable and inviting as you walk in. The kids know the teachers, they know the staff, the kids feel comfortable here. The parents are comfortable and they feel safe sending their children here. We have enough time to give them what they need beyond academics. We give them a sense of belonging. And if these schools close, our communities will have nothing left. There's around 40 miles between the beginning of our district and the ending of Dunlow's district. And they won't have a local school. And if there's no local schools, more people aren't going to want to move here. And I know Wayne County isn't the only county in this shape. Many are, and several have already been taken over by the state. But did you know that West Virginia had a $338 million surplus at the end of the 2025 school year? With all that money, it's sad that they're talking about closing so many schools in this state. And I know that that's not your fault. You guys can only work with the money that you're given. But it's a whole system problem that these little schools and these little communities are paying for. I saw a press release that the state treasurer doesn't want any more community schools closing. And I know that there's legislation going forward to try to stop these small community schools from closing. They seem a little more serious about it this year. My hope is that if we hold off one more year, that the legislature will step in and do something to save all these little community schools across the state. I haven't offered you any solutions. I don't have any. I don't know how to fix this, but please think about the kids and the families living in this area before you make your decision. Please pray about this situation. I've been praying that the Lord's will be done, and I know if it is, everything will be okay. And that's basically what I want. I just want everything to be okay for our kids. I'm just concerned about our kids going to bigger schools that are farther away in schools that have like a different culture than our schools have. So please make your decision carefully, because once you close these schools, it can't be undone. Thank you for your time. Mary Sword.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Alexander. My name is Mary Perry Sword, and I attended Genoa Elementary, as did my son, brothers, all of my nieces and nephews, and a majority of my cousins. I'm not here solely because Genoa was our school, but to hopefully spare Dunlow and other small schools that we all want to talk about. Everyone wants their school to remain open, and with good reasons other than nostalgia and loyalty. I know that you know all the attributes that small schools have for the community, so I won't go into that ad nauseam. I want to start by saying I totally understand the seriousness of the financial situation facing this district. I know you are over $1 million over budget, and I don't envy the position you're in. I'm not here to deny that reality. I'm here to ask you to consider whether closing Genoa and Dunlow this year is the wisest response to it. Schools closures are often described as cost-saving measures, but they're actually permanent decisions made to address short-term financial pressures. Once a school is closed, it's gone, even if circumstances change. Closing schools does not fix a structural deficit. It offers a one-time reduction while introducing new costs, longer transportation routes, student displacement, staff turnover, and the risk of families leaving the district entirely, or in many cases, parents deciding to homeschool. Those risks deserve careful consideration, which I know you've done, but there are now legislative bills that are being considered that might mitigate the problem. I know that the topic of closing Genoa and Dunlow was brought up in 2019, and you have already postponed this decision since then, and thank you for that. But right now, the legislature is actively debating bills that directly affect rural school closures. Senate Bill 217. This bill would revise how community schools are funded in West Virginia. It's currently pending. 218. This bill proposes the creation of a new support fund specifically for community schools. This bill is also pending. 219. This bill aims to create a moratorium on school closings and consolidations statewide. It would add a new section to the Education Code to impose a temporary halt on all public school closures and consolidation proposals. A moratorium would freeze closure proceedings while lawmakers figure out other reforms. 504. This bill could give local residents significant legal and procedural tools to block closure, including requiring public votes and higher thresholds for board approval. I understand that those bills are not law yet, but closing schools before that process removes options for error. We have Senators Mark Maynard, Craig Hart, Jay Taylor, and Delegate Henry Corby Dillon, who are working diligently to find ways to keep school closures from becoming necessary. Let's give them some time to fix this. Please don't officially close these two schools before they have that chance. There's no emergency that requires these schools to close at the end of the school year. A one-year postponement does not ignore the budget problem. It allows the district to manage it without making an irreversible decision under pressure. Even if circumstances change, even if laws change, even if funding improves, these doors will not reopen. I'm not asking you to abandon fiscal responsibility. I'm asking you to exercise it by pausing, gathering more information, and allowing time for legislative clarity and alternative solutions. Leadership is not about choosing the fastest solution. It's about choosing the one that causes the least permanent harm. So I'm asking you to pause, not to avoid responsibility, but to manage risk. Even if you ultimately move forward, I hope you remember that many of us ask for time, not to resist responsibility, but to protect our children and communities from a decision that cannot be undone. I appreciate your honesty. I don't believe for 1 minute that any of you really want to do this, but feel forced to do so due to the budget. But in light of these bills that are before the legislature, and with the help of our elected officials, please consider postponing until they can do something that hopefully will help. I respectfully ask you to postpone the closure of Genoa and Dunlow Elementary for at least 1 year. Thank you for your time and consideration, and let's do what's right for the children of these communities.
Danny Scarberry.
I'm here tonight to address these members. And my main concern is not y'all, the kids. That's my main concern here tonight. What's best for them, not what's best for us. You take these kids and you put them on these buses and you bus them to these other schools. What are you doing? You're overcrowding your buses. bus drivers has a big responsibility. And when you got a bunch of kids on the bus that's acting up, talking, it's drawn the attention of these bus drivers. What you're doing, you're going to create a more problem than what you got right now with what you're dealing with these two schools. I understand Dunlow wants to keep her kids there. Genoa's wanting to keep her kids here. I took my kids out of Fort Gate School and brought them here because of the drug situation that's in Fort Gate. Tulsa High School, same thing, is eat up with drugs in that school, believe it or not. And so is Fort Gate, because how I know, my kids even got a hold of it. Me and my wife, when she was 11, we raised 4 kids of our own, and they came to school here. They learned more in this school than they did at Tulsa High School or Fort Gate when they had to be transferred there. We lived right up here on Mill Creek, on top of the hill here. So we brought our own kids here because we did not want them to be in them schools because they're overcrowded. There's a drug problem in them schools, and we don't want our kids to have no part of it. And another thing, I went to a one-room school from the 1st to the 6th in a one-room school. I learned more in that one-room school in Lawrence County, Kentucky, than I did going to Louisa High School and Louisa Elementary, because it was overcrowded in their schools, that they could not give us the education that like these one-room schools, smaller schools did. We had one teacher that taught 6th grades. She would take us up front, set us down, and teach us everything that we needed. When she got done with us, we'd come back, we'd sit down, while she took the next class up and she taught. While she was teaching them, we was learning what they were learning. By the time we got to the 6th, we know what had to be done, because we learned in these small one-room schools. Now I'm telling you board members, all you're going to do is create a bigger problem. I know money is a big situation. I've been a coal miner all my life. And I know that the state ain't got the tax money that it used to have because the coal mines shut down. Because a lot of the coal mines supplied money to a lot of the school systems. Up here at Dunlow, at that coal mine, I worked there. They helped Dunlow School up there with money and everything. I know that. But the coal mines are gone now, and the tax money is no longer available. I understand that. But right now, Charleston is going to have to figure out something to do to appropriate more money towards the school systems. Either that, they're hurting the children. They're not hurting the parents or the grown-ups. They're hurting the kids that's trying to learn and everything. And this world is not going to hold back just because they ain't learning. Now, you can Dunlow up here, even when I worked up there, Dunlow, every time there was a big rain or a flood, Dunlow flooded. I know that for a fact. Dunlow School flooded. Genoa, it sits back away from the creek up on the hill. It has never flooded here.
It's time if you can wrap up. It's time if you can wrap up.
All right. But I thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd.
Delegate Dillon? Oh, there he is. I've lost him.
Right here, front. Start yet?
Go.
Thank you, parents, for coming out tonight. Don't have my pitchfork with me, but at home, maybe some of you guys have yours with you. Maybe we won't need them, but I'll say this, it feels like we're rushing toward a predetermined outcome. It feels like we're looking at 1.6 million in savings on paper. But that's a much different question from how much could be cut in order to save these two schools. I don't think that we would have to cut necessarily 1.6 or 1.7 million. I think that we're making a mistake of looking at Genoa and Dunlow as an ATM for the rest of the county and for other priorities. But our children, they're not numbers on a ledger. They shouldn't be treated that way. Regardless of what the state says, and I know the state likes their numbers and their spreadsheets, and I deal with them pretty often. But I feel like we're indeed rushing the process toward a predetermined outcome. Maybe it's time we tap the brakes a little bit. Now, before I get into the next part here, we heard homeschool mentioned a little bit. Fact is, if you are a bona fide homeschooler under state code, and you homeschool, you do not receive a dollar. I've never received a dollar. My wife and I homeschool. They're our children. That's our decision. We pay taxes. We don't take any of the money from the state for our children. There are some children, some parents who decide to utilize the Hope Scholarship, which was upheld by the state Supreme Court as part of, they considered it part of the public school system. Those were their words. Okay? Now, back to the topic at hand. After the December roundtable, where we discussed the fate of Genoa, Dunlow, and other matters, I submitted the legislation that was brought to me by the board, as well as several of my own bills for consideration in the upcoming session that we're currently in. We just started. I was not the only one. Several other senators, delegates submitted legislation of their own. These are going through the process of being introduced, showing up in the system. We just started this year's legislative session. There's a process to follow. And I submitted those bills that I submitted in good faith, with the effort to try to help keep these schools open. I've been around public school all my life. My parents were both public school teachers. My wife's parents were both public school teachers. My mother-in-law went to Genoa. Okay? We have to give the process a chance to work. And I promise that if I could pass a bill unilaterally by myself today, right here tonight, I would do it. We're not a dictatorship. We don't operate that way in a republic. But I do know that I've not made the decisions for the Wayne County Board of Education for the past several years. The question is, has the Wayne County Board of Education done everything in its power to make sure all the options have been exhausted before coming to this hasty conclusion? Now, excuse me. At this point, what I would suggest, as has been alluded to earlier, let the process work. Last year, when this issue first came up, I asked for a full legislative process in 2 years. It's a 2-year cycle. It's for each legislative cycle. And here we are, we're just starting this year's legislative cycle. More bills have been introduced this year. There's more interest this year to save these community schools by far than there was last year or the year before that. We're a lot closer to solutions than we've ever been. And if we act now prematurely, we're going to preclude all of those solutions from taking effect. So my advice is, let the process work. And if the members of the board would like to have a meeting perhaps with some of the senior leadership of the House and the Senate. I feel confident that Senator Maynard and I would be happy to sit in on that and be part of that discussion. In fact, just this last week, there was a bill passed for the majority leaders.
Time.
District in Hancock County, and I'll wrap it up here.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that the House leadership and the Senate leadership would be happy to meet with our Wayne County Board. And I know that Senator Maynard and I would be happy to help with that. We also have financial staff who would be happy to go through the numbers if there are any questions. We can identify the bill that's going to help the most. Maybe we can make something happen. Give us a chance. Thank you.
Senator Maynard.
Thank everybody for showing up tonight. Thank the board for putting this together. I don't know if this is required or not, but I appreciate you letting us let you hear from the community. A lot of my notes that I jotted down when I sat down here has kind of already been touched on. But I want to talk about the decisions in Charleston. So back in 2022, there was Amendment 2 on the ballot that the state voted on that allowed the legislature to have oversight on the rules that the State Board of Education put forward. All the agencies in the state puts rules out, and a rule is basically details to our state code. Our state code is the law. But sometimes these bills that we pass are incomplete, don't have certain details. So all these agencies like the Department of Highways, the Department of Health, and they all put these rules forward. Well, these rules, all of them come before the legislature, and the legislature will make them review it. So we vote on it during the committee votes on it during the off season, like during summer. Then when it comes time for the legislature, then the whole entire Senate and House body votes on these rules. The Department of Education, all their rules do not come before the legislature, right? That's correct. So our hands are tied. We can't determine, all we have to do is try to make laws that kind of supersede what we're doing in the rules. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but we just, there's not an extra set of eyes on it. One-room schoolhouses was mentioned, and I never had the luxury of attending one, but I think about the nation's leaders that were educated one. I'm sure Henry Ford went to one. And I think about the little school on Little House on the Prairie that was a church on Sunday and then a schoolhouse during the week. What great times. And I wonder what the overhead was. I'm sure it was very minimal. And I'm sure the community got together and did whatever repairs on the church building and what they needed for school supplies. So I'm going to explain a little bit what I found out from my research. The school levy, all 55 counties have a school levy. But it's basically the property taxes that the county collects, and that, I'm not sure the percentage, like 80%. You all know the percentage of the property taxes that goes to the school board.
It's something like 80%. Yeah.
So then, not all counties have an excess levy, but Wayne County does, and that's voted on the ballot. So that's extra money. So the State Board of Education takes the enrollment and probably a lot of other figures and our levy money, and they decide how much money to send to the county. Excess levy is not counted in that. So no matter how many kids are enrolled in Wayne County, we get that levy money and excess levy money, and it's not diminished according to population. Hancock County's been in the news. The state took them over, and proceedings, criminal proceedings, I guess, which they had mismanaged a lot of other money. I've heard like the bonuses, 2 bonuses twice a year for all employees. But they had 142 extra employees than what the State Board of Education, a lot of money. So that put them upside down. And And I'm not throwing you all on the bus, and I hate it that you're in this position, because I know you have, requirements that you need a certain amount of people, but Wayne County coincidentally has 142 extra employees than what the state allots. The state says we need 758, and we have 900, and at $30,000 a year, that'd be $4 million right there. And I know it's not easy to get rid of these positions once you create them, but we lose about 20 people per year with retirement. That's a good chunk right there to start off. And I understand business. I grew up, 5 miles down the road here, was around my mom and dad, making decisions, and you got to look at the bottom line and overhead. But our education of our kids, you can't really put a price on it. And I'm a product of public education. I love Wayne Elementary, love Wayne Middle, love Wayne High School, with some of my most fond memories. And I'm not, I just want our kids to be educated, because I can't think of a more important job than educating our kids. And maybe a parent, between a parent and a teacher, like we're both ranked way up there, so important. You can't really put a price on that. Today, I sent a bill down to bill drafting.
Time.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap that.
Yeah.
I sent a bill down to bill drafting to get the state board of education to help our county boards. When they're upside down on the number of it actually addresses in the number of employees. And I also put this bill away, if they say one thing about how many employees you have, I also put in there a chance for you guys to appeal and get them to be a part of your process as to why you need these extra employees. And they'll say, oh, wow, I see why you need, these extra employees, and get you more money so you're not upside down like this. So I'm gonna wrap up by my one ask, and Mary Perry Stewart said this. She asked for a year, and I hate to compromise with herself, Mary, but I asked for you to wait till after midnight on March 14th, our last day of session. And it doesn't have to be at midnight, but at least until after that, to see all these bills that are coming through that Mary spoke about, and Billy spoke about, to see if we can help you. If you decide next Tuesday to close this school, it's not going to close until after the school year. And, it'll give us time to figure something out. And I hope you'll consider that. Thank you, everyone.
Put some correlation to what Mr. Alexander says earlier, and it's hard to understand, and I'm talking to the group, but I'm talking to you as well. I mean, that the cost to run this school is more than it is for others per student. It also goes back to that per student ratio, because when it comes to the state formula, the formula figures up one teacher pretty much per 13 students. And so that when we come to what he used the example earlier of the cooks, so if you take one teacher we're funded for per 13 students, when you come to a school this size and you already have the split bathrooms, and those bathrooms barely get the 13, then again, you're struggling to pay, you're not even funded for the teachers that it takes to fill the rooms. And so that too is another thing that causes that overreach, and what causes the increase to run a school this size. It's not, like that you're wanting not to have the school, but just the costs become that much more expensive. And you have other schools that are sitting up where we have Crum that's getting to that close number too. They're sitting with capacity of 14 kids, 16 kids, or what have you. And you can take the 4 kids at Dunlow, or the 5 kids, and add that to that classroom, and you're still funded for that without the teacher. So that kind of goes with that part about, you're talking about retirements and not replacing. It's kind of the same.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the ultimate business.
No, I agree.
But you all need a special, look at you from a special look from the state.
Oh, definitely, everyone, statewide, so yeah.
And the education that a kid can get in a room with 13 students, I can imagine how much better it would be. And I know it's, it's more expensive, but like I said, you can put the price on education.
Well,
Most of us important process ever.
Very much so, but you have a split classroom sometimes, it's a much different situation versus a whole classroom.
Just a few things for the record. Yeah, it was Hancock County that was taken over. And I read this in the news. I didn't look myself, but they're half our district size. We're the 12th largest district in the state. They have half our student population, and they're 140 positions over. And the 142 positions we're over, almost 80 of those positions are service personnel. And so it goes back to.
I know that I wasn't trying to.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I just going back to what we were talking about earlier about the number of students that they serve. So as across the district, as the schools have lost enrollment, those ratios have went down in every single building. And there was a time when there was a buffer and those ratios were higher, and then you could support smaller schools. But that's what's happening to all the counties. But I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Kendra Bowen.
Hello.
Hello.
I did not prepare this speech.
Oh, you're fine.
My name is Kendra Bowen. I'm originally from, I went to Wayne High School. My kids come here to Genoa Elementary. My youngest is in first grade, and my oldest is in fourth grade. Both of them excel, really. They do a fantastic job at the school. What I value is that it's more one-on-one education. We don't have the overcrowding. We don't have a lot of behaviors. We don't have them exposed to a lot of culture or inappropriate things at their age because they're not in a bigger school where you have pre-K through 8th grade. You only have, it's kindergarten to 5th grade. I really have enjoyed my kids being here. I actually drive them. I live kind of in a gray zone, so I drive them across the hill and drop them off every morning. And I'm very thankful for that. I can't imagine them going anywhere else besides this school. The teacher's great, the principal is wonderful. Like I said, they have more one-on-one education time. We're not overcrowded. Even though the rooms are split, it's actually a plus for my oldest. He's very intelligent. He's really good at math and science. So he gets to listen to the 5th grade teacher. As she's teaching 5th grade, he gets to participate in that. So that's given him an extra boost. He actually participated in math field day this year with the school. So both, as I said, both my kids, they do a really great job here. Their test scores are great, AR reading, star reading, everything is just right on point. I have the choice to send my children to other schools, to the bigger schools, but again, like I said, I drive the extra 20 minutes out of my way, and they could go to Fort Gay where there's a bus at the end of the road, but I bring them here because I do value their education. I want them to get the best opportunity so they can thrive later on as adults. Because now is what's important. We're creating a future, right? And it's nice to have teachers that's able to do that. I'm not afraid to drop my kids off here. I trust the teachers. I don't have to worry about if anything bad is going to happen or, all these things that you hear on the news going on in these other bigger schools. I know that they're safe here. And I know that they're getting all the education that they need. So I'm very appreciative. There's just a couple points that I would like to point out from the other speakers. I know you guys are looking at cost saving, but really, if you close down this school and you move children to other schools, what's your cost saving there? You're still going to have bigger classrooms. You're going to have to hire more people. To me, it's, in the end, the greater scale of things is going to equal out. Another thing, when we met back in December, I don't know if you called me or not, but I had seen a lot of your graphs that you had presented. And I felt like a lot of those numbers were skewed because you were looking at data basically from the pandemic. And And I know that there was a lot of extra funding during that time because we were in a pandemic. So you mentioned that there was $9.5 million funding at one point, and they want us to be at $5 million. So my question was, even back then, I don't think I even got an answer, was how did we go from $9.5 million funding back down to $5 million? And where did all that money go?
They went to personnel. The numbers that were over formula, the personnel cost to operate the district is where the money is going.
During the pandemic? Because we had it was $9.5 million funding for the pandemic. So you're capturing a pandemic cost, but it's kind of a skewed number. So what I would like to see is the numbers post the pandemic, and maybe taking a snap or capturing that finance picture and compare it to now. I don't even know if you can compare it to now. You might need a year or two to gather some more data to actually give you an accurate spending amount.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, you got all this extra money that you were given to help for that $9.5 million. It would work if you were at $5 million during the pandemic, because that's how much they wanted you to have, and you didn't have any extra money. But you had extra funding, so you can't really say that you're going to be saving this millions of dollars by closing 2 schools.
Time.
The math doesn't add up.
Yeah, the 9 million that we're talking about is the county's general fund. That's separate from any COVID dollars. COVID dollars were federal dollars that came in. They were kept in separate accounts. Where the money was able to be where the fund balance increased was because the lack of expenses during the pandemic, because schools were shut down. There were no extracurricular activities, but there were no buses running. It greatly reduced the cost of operating the schools when the schools were shut down so much. And that's when the fund balance reached its highest point. But the COVID dollars were all kept separate. And so once schools reopened, we were operating with that $9 million balance. But when you ask where does that money go, we're spending $9 million a year out of that fund for the extra personnel that the district has, those 142 positions that were over.
It costs what, like $9.5 million to have 142 extra employees?
Yes.
Your graphs didn't depict that though. They didn't separate it out into federal money or state money or COVID money versus.
Those
Into separate.
Yeah, what those graphs depicted was the general fund balance, which is what we're talking about, is down to 1.8 million.
Is there any way that you can redo that so I can see that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's all
I might have a copy for you tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Clay? Oh, there he is.
First of all, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Our community is well represented, and we are grateful for you, our parents, our students, board members, legislators, everyone that's made it possible. We are thankful for you being here and for your continued support. I feel as we've looked at what's taken place in the last couple of months, I feel we as a staff here at Genoa understand where you as a board are this evening. We understand the financial hardship that the county has gotten into over the course of several years, as we just got finished hearing here. We also realize that this didn't just happen overnight. It's been a process that's happened over these multiple years. But the county's financial situation cushion that we've also looked at, the funds that we have, has steadily declined over the past several years. That's been obvious for the city. There's many factors that we've even touched on here tonight. We realize the enrollment has dropped in our county as a result of low birth rates, economic instability, jobs left. We realize that some legislative actions Hope Scholarship has been even discussed on this evening. Turn has caused the state aid formula that's also been touched on here this evening to cause our county to be at a disadvantage because our county, and especially, has put a target right here this evening on Genoa and Dunlow. It's not going to stop here. It's the other small schools that have been mentioned in our meetings. They are in danger. Throughout the week and tonight, you guys have heard multiple scenarios. Please, from our community to keep schools open. You've heard as a board and you've approached it. This also has been touched at the legislative round table session. I do appreciate you all moving forward with that, to try to have some dialogue between the legislature and the board. And you proposed legislation, which is, we're here this evening, so you can move forward. But we need to understand nothing has happened yet, because it hasn't been asked for multiple times. This takes time. Keeping all this in mind, I want to kind of transition my thoughts here this evening. Take off one hat as a principal, maybe put on another hat tonight. Thinking about the wisest man that ever lived on this earth other than our Lord Jesus Christ. A man by the name of Solomon. He penned these words. Book of Proverbs, chapter 29, where there is no vision, people perish. Where there's no vision, people perish. This scripture personally has been a driving force for me in decisions, family decisions, job decisions, marriage decisions. It's been a drive for me in my church, my Christian walk. Not only just that, but I have used that philosophy or that thought here at the school. As we come together every year, we have to make a strategic plan. We sit down and make goals. What's a goal? A goal's a vision. You've got to have a vision at Genoa Elementary in order to be able to succeed. We have to be able to meet those goals. As we sit down, we make school goals, we make teacher goals, we make administrator goals, the county, even on every agenda you have, you've got county goals that you sit down and you put together. If there's no vision, progress can't be monitored. We can't see what's taking place. We look at all these data sources for our students in our school. As a county, we look at all these data sources to try to see what we can do in order to move forward. But if we're not moving forward, there's one key that we have to look at. That's accountability. If there's no accountability, you never revisit those, we're not going to reach our goal. We're not going to reach our vision. The wisest man that ever walked on this earth, I mentioned one of the wisest, other than one, the wisest man that ever walked on this earth said this. For which of you intended to build a tower, sitteth not down first, and counteth the cost. And counteth the cost. Whether he have sufficient enough funds to finish it, lest haply, after that he's laid the foundation, is not able to finish it, all that behold began to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. He had a problem. Wayne County's had a problem. We've got a problem here tonight with Genoa and Dunlow. My heartfelt desire as we speak to the board here tonight is that each of you that's been elected to serve our community, your students, or parents of Genoa, Wayne County, that you would wholeheartedly cast your vote next Tuesday. You can say that when you cast that vote as closing, consolidating, or do nothing, that these schools has really taken into account the proceeding is counting up the cost. Being good stewards of what you've been entrusted to. Not casting blame, but when I think of being a good steward, I want you to ask yourself, have you considered every penny that's been spent? Have you considered every lease on every piece of property, with every property owner, churches, entities? Have you considered every penny that you've placed in that? Is every penny spent on those leases? Every purchase order, has that been for the student's best interest in the county? Have you looked at the funding being utilized to operate buildings on even hold a student? Have we looked at that? Have we, in every possible scenario and everything we know, to save funds so that these schools will be open? I know we're in a hardship. We've seen that. We know even if we close, we're still in bad shape. So it's going to take time, as we've heard here from the legislature. This is out of our hands. about the state board has even pleaded with the legislature, we need help across West Virginia. It's not a Wayne County problem. It's not a Genoa County problem. It's a state of West Virginia problem that's facing everybody. So if we've not done this and we've not considered counting the cost, if we have no vision, we've got a bigger problem here tonight than just closing 2 schools. Again, thank everybody for coming this evening, your support through all of this. And I hope we all take these next few days between now and next Tuesday with a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, and do what's right for the students of Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you. So next steps, hearings have been scheduled for this entire week. Tomorrow evening, we go to East Lynn at 5 o'clock, and then we will be at Wayne Elementary at 7 o'clock. The board's decision is scheduled for Tuesday night. That meeting will be at Wayne Elementary School in the cafeteria, so we have more room for folks to attend that meeting. Can't fit you in up at the board office, so it'll be Tuesday night at Wayne Elementary. Senator Maynard mentioned possibly waiting until after March. Of course, I know he understands that we're under state deadlines and the decision has to be made next week regarding the school's future, or they are out of deadlines and nothing can happen for next year. So there will be a decision made on Tuesday evening, and then we'll move forward from there. And I think that that's all of our speakers, so I'll.
Yeah, do we have any clarifying questions? Go ahead.
My wife is an ECAT special education teacher. And last year, they had 3 A's in the room. This year, they got 4 students, and they cut it down to 2. So where is the 192 more employees? 142 employees at, because you've already cut the 8 for special education. So why is it cut, but you've already cut the special education aides in the room? So where's that?
Yeah, the number of special education aides in a building is based upon the student needs in that particular room.
If you got a 5th grade that's got 2 special education teachers, whatever, and you've got 3 that needs 8, so why this one getting 8 and they're getting 2 that don't need it?
Yeah, we would have to look at the individual situation. I don't know the details. We'd have to look at it. I can tell you that the state released a report that Wayne County Schools spends $4 million out of local funds for the education of students in the special needs category. And so I think that the state superintendent was proposing today that the counties receive some of that funding to help with the funding issue overall. So I think what you're saying falls in line with that. But I'll be glad to talk to you one-on-one. 6 o'clock. It's a regular board meeting.
All right. Just again, we want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and all of your thoughts and all of your information will be taken and reviewed by each of us. We don't take this situation lightly, but we do appreciate you coming out and letting us know how you feel. So thank you for that.
Motion to approve,
Adjourn.
Second,
I'll second it.
Dennis, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
7:08 p.m. and let me stop the live stream.
7:09.